This is Free Talk Live. You can bring up whatever you want. The toll-free number here is 855-450-FREE, like freedom. That's 855-450-3733. We have the Discord call-in line rooms over at discord.lrn.fm. And in the studio with you tonight, you've got Ian.
Reggie Rich.
And Melanie.
And big news potentially in Virginia tomorrow. At least there's a lot of news leading up to what's going to be happening tomorrow. Some are expecting violence. Some are saying it's going to fizzle. Nothing's going to go down. What is preparing to occur? Apparently a massive protest. Some sort of a enormous, as being described at the Greenwich Time, at greenwichtime.com, out of Richmond, Virginia. The story: massive, enormous gun rights rally scheduled for tomorrow. The convoys and militias are coming if social media posts are to be believed. Headed to Virginia's capital on Monday to take a stand for gun rights, or in the words
how
of
much
some.
social media posts can you believe? Because there was supposed to be a big raid of Area 51 as well.
Yeah, that didn't really pan out too well, did it?
Million people into the desert, and now we got militias showing up in Virginia.
Did anybody ever say they were going to do that and talk about it beyond just clicking attend?
Yeah, not too many. I mean, there were some people who actually did go out to that thing, but not very many of them.
Well, no, but how many people actually talked about it versus just looking at the RSVP list isn't really telling of anything. I didn't see anybody saying they were going to do that.
Mark Edge said he was going to go.
Well, and the Air Force was taking it seriously.
Yeah,
right?
they were.
Yeah, the Air Force was taken seriously, getting a day off so they could play video games and drink coffee and get paid.
But no, you guys make a great
overtime.
point. Just because somebody says on the internet that they're going to do a thing doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to do a thing. Now, arguably, the Area 51 thing, even though it did blow up and go viral, seemed more like a joke than this does. This seems like people are upset, and reasonably so. I mean,
very reasonably so.
Gun rights are going to be trampled, likely in Virginia, what with the governor now a Democrat and Democrats in control of the state house there. That's what has gun owners understandably concerned that something bad is going to happen. In fact, they've already, I believe, introduced multiple really awful pieces of gun control legislation in Virginia, and that is what has led to these protests. Of course, as we reported late last week, the governor has declared a state of emergency that applies to the state capital, downtown, or whatever capital area is, and they're basically going to forbid people from carrying any guns.
Good luck.
In those areas. Well, and that's the question. How are they going to enforce that?
With guns.
Well, obviously, but how are they going to catch people? Is it going to be like New York City on Times Square on New Year's Eve, where they have checkpoints?
Okay.
In order to get to the place where people are going to gather, the police sort of set up choke points around the area.
Don't they have that? Aren't they setting up like the corral cages?
I don't know. Maybe. I have not looked in great detail as to what's going on. Have you? Is that what you've heard is going on?
I've seen articles where they're setting up the protest zone.
Yep.
And it's fenced off area, choke point.
And they're totally going to be doing
if you want to protest, go in here.
Yep.
Right. And so they could restrict people coming and going. And there was also concern that would set off when the feds start the violence.
Agents provocateur.
Yes, they're concerned that an agent provocateur will start the violence within that confines.
Sure.
Right, and then they're easy targets from the snipers posted on the roof because they're in a corral cage.
I mean, you don't even need that. You could just have an unstable Antifa member, and you probably will.
Well, they're going to march with the gun rights people, so that's another odd.
You think Antifa's going to go with the gun rights people?
I'm pretty sure they're up there.
They said they're going.
They said they're going.
That doesn't mean they're with the gun rights people.
But they're going in favor.
They're not with them. They're physically in the same location.
Yeah.
Right.
So, there you go.
More here from Greenwich Time. This is, let's see, some people are saying it could be fanning the flames of a civil war. But between who?
Gun rights people and those who want to take away your liberties.
Well, I mean, is it really a civil war if you're fighting the government? I don't know. Is that a civil war?
If there's citizens on the side of the government, then yes.
Okay. Well, he says Christian Yingling, the head of the Pennsylvania Lightfoot Militia and leader of the Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville in 2017, said, "I'll be rolling into town early. I can't give you my exact time for security reasons. I organized a convoy, places we can meet up and drive together. I'll be heading it, said another militia activist in Oklahoma. Both Lee and Yingling were members of a group that signed consent decrees never to return to Charlottesville while armed, part of a lawsuit settlement over the violence there. But there is no restriction against coming to Richmond.
Wait, a lawsuit settlement or a plea deal? Because
It says a lawsuit settlement.
yeah, that doesn't make any sense. Because if I could, somebody can sign a contract with me saying they won't bring guns in Virginia, they can still bring guns in Virginia, though.
Charlottesville, specifically, though. There were criminal cases in Charlottesville, and then there were civil cases also. So if they're saying with the lawsuit,
but a civil case doesn't accomplish that.
Well, unless you
come to an agreement.
It doesn't matter. It still doesn't make it illegal for you to do that.
Would be a violation of the agreement.
It'd be a court order in that case. You would say, okay, in order to settle this case, we'll agree not to come back to Charlottesville with guns. That would be part of the terms of the agreement, right? The settlement.
But it's a settlement with a private party, right?
I don't know. We don't know what case they're referring to.
Even if it's a settlement with the state, like worst case scenario, it's contempt of court charge. It's not a gun charge.
Yeah, but there's still penalties associated with that. Would there not be?
So, related story here, according to eTors in our Discord chat, he posted an article from National Review. Antifa group to march with pro-gun protesters at Virginia rally. Antifa groups, of course, most famous for sometimes violent protests against right-wing groups. The Richmond-based Antifa Seven Hills is joining in support of gun rights. Seven Hills spokesperson James, doesn't have a last name, told Vice, quote, "I think it's been pretty important for us to focus on the fact that gun control in America has a legacy of racist enforcement, like taking guns away from black people because black people were perceived as a threat to property and the sanctity of the state." And he's not wrong.
It's the fascists in charge.
Well, he's not wrong about that. Several leftist gun groups have formed in response to the election of President Trump, including the Redneck Revolt, which we've talked about here on Free Talk Live. You familiar with Redneck Revolt?
I have not heard about the Redneck Revolt.
It's a group of kind of, blue-collar Democrats.
Okay.
Gun-owning, blue-collar Democrats, essentially. Sort of union worker-type folks who, have
Real
guns.
America.
There's also apparently the Socialist Rifle Association, which was formed in 2018 and has chapters in all 50 states.
Nice.
James, the Antifa spokesperson, said, "I think it's what's particular about the South is we have to be a bit more creative and sensitive to the people around us instead of fulfilling some sort of meme of what Antifa is. That's really what we're trying to work against right now, especially by talking to conservatives and showing we're not just a black-clad group of rabble-rousers who are out for attention and have jobs funded by George Soros." He added, "The presence of an armed left is not discussed. It's not understood. But apparently it will be happening tomorrow."
I struggle with this whole scenario in my head.
What do you mean?
Because we're always looking for peaceful solutions to problems, right? Like,
I am, yeah.
That's all. It should always be the goal. And yet, deep down, I firmly believe that violence is always the answer, even if it's the final answer that everyone's trying to avoid. I'm realistic about that. I can't envision, call me uncreative or unimaginative, I don't see a situation where, like, the government continues to push to take away gun rights, and it doesn't end up violent somewhere down the line.
Well,
I think you're probably right.
There's going to be violence. The question just is when, how, and against who. So even if everybody right now stood down and just let the government do it, then that's going to cause private sector violence because then everybody's going to be unarmed.
Right.
So no matter what, like, you can't. There's no nonviolent option to most government questions.
So now would be a good time to stand up for your right to remain armed, to protect yourself privately, even if that means you're going to have to be violent against the government. Otherwise, you lose, and there's no point.
Yeah, I mean, as somebody who supports peace, I can't say that I think violence is going to accomplish what goal you're looking at. But on the other hand, I don't think you're wrong for considering it.
I'm not advocating it. I need someone to, like, form the picture in my head that shows a peaceful resolution of this.
The toll-free number is 855-450-FREE like freedom. That's 855-450-3733. Well, whatever's going to happen, it probably isn't going to be peaceful tomorrow, is my guess. We'll see. More coming up. Free Talk Live. You dial toll free here. Bring up whatever's on your mind. Our number is 855-450. Free like freedom. That's 855-450-3733. We've got the Discord call-in line rooms over at discord.lrn.fm, so feel free to join us there. And you can talk about whatever you want. We are discussing what might happen tomorrow. It sounds like what's definitely going to happen is there's going to be some kind of a protest, a very large one, or at least that's what it's expected to be. The government gang is certainly acting as though they're expecting a large protest tomorrow. So we're going to talk more about, what could happen in that circumstance. And you can join us here. The toll-free number is 855-450-FREE. And with you in the studio tonight, it's Ian.
Rich.
And Melanie.
So, also want to make sure you know about Freedom's Phoenix. It's a liberty-oriented news aggregation site. If you want the newest and freshest stories and perspectives on current events from those who value liberty, then freedomsphoenix.com has it. Their daily dispatch is the best way to stay up to date on science, technology, historical findings, liberty news, government overspending, and the rise of the police state. It's freedoms with an S, phoenix.com. That's freedomsphoenix.com as we continue here. So not only is Antifa going to be on the side of the protesters tomorrow, but of course a lot of gun rights activists sort of from the right are also expected to be there as well. They are expecting thousands to join them for the rally, as according to GreenwichTime.com, on Capitol Square to protest plans by the new Democratic majority in the General Assembly to pass gun control laws. State and federal officials have been preparing for a volatile mix of weapons, passions, and anti-government fervor.
From the government perspective, if they know the protest is coming and they see, what is it, 95% sanctuary counties in Virginia. Right? If you're supposed to be representing your constituents, isn't that evidence of the constituents demanding that their voice be heard prior to the violence? Right? Going like, You obviously don't have a mandate from the people, from the counties, from the citizens, quote unquote, of Virginia, and yet they're going to try to smash this through anyway in face of the protest?
Well, I mean, you got to look at it from the perspective of the politicians. I mean, the politician says, people voted for me. That's a mandate on whatever I want to do. And the people who are pushing back against it are the sheriffs, right? There's a group of sheriffs, 95% of them or whatever, that have done, as you said, they've created this sanctuary policy of saying essentially that, well, if you try to confiscate people's guns, we're going to oppose you. We're going to not go along with this in some way, shape, or form. And I believe the Virginia government came back with some sort of a attack back against the sheriffs, basically threatening their jobs, essentially, if they didn't enforce the law. So, I mean, it's kind of turned into this political football thing. I mean, the state reps will say, well, if they didn't want my gun control measures, they shouldn't have voted for me. Okay. Now, of course, you could argue that there's a bunch of people who probably didn't vote who are going to be mad about this, right? Because there's likely, in any given election, probably about half of the people who are eligible to vote don't vote. Whether they're registered or not is another question. But there's a good chunk of people who are registered that don't vote. And then there's other people who aren't registered at all who obviously don't vote.
I would like to know what all those politicians, what their campaign ran on then.
Good question.
Because if they ran on
gun control,
and we're going to take all your guns away and then still got voted in, then I would where's the counter protest then of all the people that did vote them in, coming out with no guns, right? No, we support.
Well, I mean, why are they going to come? The people who don't have any guns aren't going to come protest against gun owners, right?
That'd be dumb.
They're probably afraid.
As well they should be.
I mean, they ran as Democrats, though, right? So you kind of know this is what you get.
You should know.
It's not a surprise. And they were willing to sacrifice other things for that, or they wanted it. So, I mean, this is what you get when you're Democrats.
I want to counter that real quick, only because generally you're right, but Democrats are typically associated with the left. So is Antifa.
That's right.
And you have a selection of Antifa who are pro-gun, anti, I don't want to say anti-Democrat, but definitely on the side of gun rights.
Right, but otherwise would have voted for a Democrat.
Otherwise would have voted for a Democrat.
The more unstable elements of your street-level people are not representative of the political class.
Okay. So
that has nothing to do with someone who's running for office as a Democrat.
Well, they're the ones that get voted in. You're saying that if you vote for a Democrat, you could expect this.
Yeah, well, you're not voting for Antifa. Antifa is not on the ballot.
Right. But they're both associated with what you would consider leftist policies.
Right, but one of them is actually running for office.
Okay.
I didn't say if you pick a random Democrat off the street, and I don't know that. I think Antifa might be insulted by being called a Democrat. I don't know. I don't think they identify that way. A Democrat, if you elect a Democrat, that means they're running for office.
Right.
This is what you're going to get.
So Stephen Beast in our D-Live chat room says, calling Democrats left-wing is hilarious. What else should we call them?
I don't know. I would call them left-wing.
Yeah, I mean...
In modern American politics, that's the left wing.
He also says 2020 is the year that will unite left and right. Why?
No, have him call in.
Yeah, I'd love to.
Can you support that statement with anything?
Yeah,
yes.
I'd love to hear more about that. The toll-free number here is 855-450-FREE. Now, I mean, look, some people can work together. Obviously, the Antifa folks are willing to come out and stand on the same side as the right-wing gun owners tomorrow in Virginia. But
on one issue. Yeah.
That doesn't mean they're united in any meaningful fashion.
Fight.
What's that?
You're still going to fight.
You mean
over
they're going to fight
issues.
each other?
Yeah.
Right. Right. They're going to probably argue about other things while they're standing there in favor of gun rights, and there may actually be a fracas of some sort between them. Who knows?
I would hope not.
I would hope not as well. But people get a little. They get a little emotional over things like this and tensions and
focus on the common enemy in this case.
Right, and maybe that's what he's hoping for. Maybe he's hoping that in 2020 people will finally see that the Republicans and Democrats, not much of a dime's worth of a difference between them, and that they are the common enemy, that the state, the people who believe in the state, these what I've kind of been calling recently violent state cultists. I mean, these because the state is a cult, right? It's big enough to not be a cult. It's like an evil church, basically. And it justifies using violence against peaceful people, and it needs to end. Unfortunately, I don't think we're anywhere near that. I mean, as much as I would love to see 2020 being the year that people can, see clearly what's going on, I don't think so.
Yeah, not at all. Not a chance.
Way too far away from
Not a
that.
chance.
In fact, there's more of a division now than there's ever been, I would say, between Republicans and Democrats or the left and the right or whatever. There's more here from Greenwich Times or GreenwichTime.com. So Donald Trump apparently has now weighed in as of Friday afternoon, saying in a tweet, of course, your Second Amendment is under very serious attack in the great Commonwealth of Virginia. That's what happens when you vote for Democrats. They'll take your guns away, unlike me who took your bump stocks away. I added that last line, but I think it's important to remind people out there that Donald Trump by no means is some sort of stalwart defender of gun freedom.
Well, but if it's the Second Amendment, he should be, because he's obviously talking about the federal Constitution. Right. And is he not under oath to swear to uphold the Constitution of the United States?
Maybe he is, and maybe that's why he would say, well, yeah, I defend your right to bear arms, but not bump stocks. You can't have those.
Okay. But what I'm saying is he should go.
Those are arms.
He should find a way to defend the Second Amendment against those trying to infringe upon it.
The toll-free number, well, he's tweeting. 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. You can bring up whatever you want. If you're in Virginia and you're going to attend this tomorrow, we want to hear.
The next generation wallet is coming from Divvy. In just a few taps, you'll be able to send, earn, spend, and exchange digital money in seconds. Send money around the globe with only a swipe. Instantly exchange between Divvy, Bitcoin, and fiat right in the mobile app, and withdraw directly to your bank account. Divvy already offers the first one-tap solution for earning passive income with crypto. Multi-tiered masternodes allow everyone to partake in the network. Visit DivvyProject.org. DivvyProject.org.
Free Talk Live. Dial toll free. Join us on the radio. Our number here is 855-450-FREE like freedom. That's 855-450-3733. With you in the studio tonight, you've got Ian.
Richie Rich.
And Melanie.
Also, want to make sure you know about Divvy. The next generation wallet is coming from Divvy. In a few taps, you'll be able to spend, earn, store, and exchange digital money in seconds. Divvy says you'll be able to send money around the globe in only a swipe and instantly exchange between Divvy, Bitcoin, and fiat currencies like the dollar right in the mobile app and withdraw directly to your bank account. There's no need to wait, though, as Divvy already offers the first one-tap solution for earning passive income with their multi-tiered masternodes, allowing anyone to earn by supporting the Divi network. When the new Divi wallet launches, because of Divi's relationship with Western Union, Divi will be in 200 countries, including the United States. You can learn more over at diviproject.org. That's diviproject.org. As we continue talking about Virginia tomorrow, obviously there's been a lot of build-up to this particular event, and the government gang is taking it very seriously, moving in a lot of militarized police vehicles and barriers and barricades and probably checkpoint stuff.
Who's going to blink first?
Well, there's a good chance it'll be an agent provocateur who goes in and makes a bunch of noise or starts a fight or whatever within a group of the gun owners in the hopes that that'll start shooting.
Yeah.
But then again, if they are checking people for weapons at the front, then it's probably not likely that the gun owners will actually have been able to successfully get too many guns into the protest zone.
Well, you suggested it might not even be an agent provocateur if Antifa is marching with, conservative gun rights groups.
It could just be a fight with a Nazi and a
over something completely unrelated.
It could be, yeah.
That sparks it.
So we'll see. Donald Trump weighed in, saying that Democrats will take your guns away. Republicans will win Virginia in 2020, he says. Thank you, Dems.
And give the guns back?
Well, good question. Usually when government takes power, it doesn't just cede it back in most cases. But certainly that's what they would run on. And then, of course, if they didn't give the guns back, then what? Then what are the right-wingers going to do?
You wait for the next election and you vote the other ones in.
Yeah, well, that's where you were showing your frustration with this whole process of, earlier you were commenting that you think eventually this is going to come to violence.
I would like to be convinced otherwise. Mm-hmm. But generally speaking, right, when you have one group of people looking to disarm you, right, when the government is looking to take your guns away, every consolation that you give to them, like, oh yeah, automatic weapons, fine, we won't have automatic weapons. Here you go. All right, bump stocks. All right, here you go.
Yep.
All right, magazine capacity. Here you go. Right. At one point, do you either give up the fight and just say we're an unarmed society? Because if at every stage you're just going to give in and coalesce to their demands, right, you're either going to end up disarmed permanently anyway, or it's going to come down to violence. And if it's going to come down to violence, you should probably have your automatic weapons with high-capacity magazines in hand before they disarm you to the point where it's nearly impossible to fight back.
Yeah, I mean, as somebody who it's frustrating for me too, because as somebody who supports gun rights and your right to defend yourself, I'm also somebody who is a peace advocate, and I don't think violence is ultimately the solution. I don't think violence makes things better. But on the other hand, I mean, I can't deny what you're saying is absolutely true. But then again, you also have the tough question of when they come for your guns, and they haven't yet. But when they, in Virginia, when they come for your guns, they come knock on your door, you don't have 10,000 of your buddies hanging out there with you, right?
Right.
It's just you and your family or whoever it is that's living with you. And there's maybe 10 cops or however many they're sending on these door-to-door squads. Yeah. What do you do then? Do you just go down blazing and end up dying in that particular instance?
Well, hopefully.
In the hope that other people will be willing to do the same thing and that those incidents will dissuade the police from continuing their door-to-door campaign.
I don't think you have to go down guns a-blazing on your own, but this is why it would be important to organize at a militia level, right?
Then do what? Attack the police stations?
Not necessarily attack, but once one of your members, right, has their guns confiscated, he can let those go, right? Go to the militia depot, rearm, and then that they're coming for the guns. Then you can go on the offensive.
Then go on. Okay, that's
right.
an interesting.
Because at that point, they like shots fired.
They've taken a gun.
They've taken a gun. Now we need to defend that. Like, we always say, you can't invade America because there's a gun in every house and the community will come together, right? That would be the time for the community to come together and stand up against those 10 or however many door knockers are confiscating.
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot of people's line in the sand, and a couple of people have proven that recently by doing just that. They're like, we're here to take your guns, and he's like, no, you're not.
Wait, what? Where did this happen?
It's happened a handful of times over the past year, 2 years.
Where? What are we talking about? Where is this? Somewhere in the U.S.?
U.S.
And then was there a shooting? I mean, how did that go?
They usually die, but...
Yeah, right.
But that's what I'm saying. That's
but
what
you've
happens.
got a plan to avoid the dying, where you said the dude could just turn the gun in on that initial confiscation, alert the rest of the crew, and then they could zero in on the police station and demand the guns back.
Either that or be ready for when the next one comes.
Mm-hmm.
Right, like house number 2.
But
now
you won't
has
know
armed
where the
defense.
next house is.
That's true.
But you know where the police station is.
But you know where the police are. Yeah.
Which is part of why I'm never going to use any defensive force that's not just imminent defense is a horrible, a horrible overarching strategy. Mm-hmm. Even though it's not a horrible strategy in every single instance. Well,
right. I mean, so what you're talking about this is war, basically, is what you're describing here, right?
It's been war for a long while, but...
Sure. But this is what he's describing is the next step in you then target the enemy's headquarters or their outpost or whatever.
You almost have to, otherwise they will go to door to door
in
masse. And
now, of course, they're going to call the state police, or they're going to be like, "Oh my God, assault on precinct 13. We're being attacked." They're going to call in the backup. The nearby police departments will respond. I mean, either way, you're gonna.
It's a mess.
This is going to be people dying.
Absolutely.
There's just it doesn't seem like there's any real
But it's going to be people
way.
dying regardless. Like, no people dying is not an option that's on the table. If they decide they want to take your only way to defend yourself and your only way to discourage them from attacking you so much away from you, no one dying is not an option you have.
Right.
So, you could just forget about that because it's not a real option. Your options are go die slow and organize against them. Like, that's what you have.
So are they doing the right thing by having this massive protest in Virginia, or is it,
If the protest stays peaceful and they can dissuade the governor and the legislature from, passing the gun bans, then sure. It's a nice way to have your voice heard, right? Petitioning for redress in some form or fashion.
It's a show of force because the individual cops don't want to... The individual cops don't want to get shot. The government might not care if, there's a shootout between the people and the police, but the individual cops don't. It's like, hey, you might want to think twice about this. And I think that's the goal of a lot of people.
Toll-free number tonight, 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. The governor declared a state of emergency and issued a ban on firearms or other weapons. So I guess you can't even have a knife on Capitol grounds. The state Supreme Court upheld that ban after challenge by 2 gun rights groups. The Federal Aviation, because again, state of emergency, you can do anything you want. No more Constitution, doesn't matter.
Martial law, curfews,
right.
What's next?
I mean, that should also be a heads up to people like, hey, if all that it takes to abolish your right to bear arms is this governor guy just waving his pen and saying state of emergency, and that gives him the right to completely ban guns within some arbitrary, however many square mile radius, then that should be a wake-up call for people.
And hopefully it is, right? Hopefully it doesn't get violent, but hopefully it's a wake-up call that, yes, they can do it, yes, they are doing it, and now what are you going to do?
They've even issued temporary flight restrictions via the FAA for Richmond, making it illegal to fly any planes or drones above the city on Monday. Northam said officials are concerned about threats from weaponized drones. The toll-free number is 855-450-FREE like freedom. You can join us here. This is Free Talk Live. This is Free Talk Live. You can bring up anything you want here. The toll-free number is 855-450-FREE like freedom. That's 855-450-3733. And here in the studio tonight, you've got Ian.
Richie Rich.
And Melanie.
Hey, I want to say thanks to RJ Mort, who is a Free Talk Live Gold amplifier. RJ Mort contributing $10 a month to the AMP program. AMP stands for Advertise, Market, and Promote. The idea is if you like what we do here on Free Talk Live, open phones every night talking about liberty, freedom, peace, cryptocurrency, things like that, then please, you can contribute to the AMP program. It makes a big difference when you do it. I certainly appreciate it because it's our marketing budget. It allows us to go and market Free Talk Live to get on new radio stations around the United States and beyond. We've got over 200 stations today, and it's thanks to listeners like R.J. Mort for becoming Free Talk Live amplifiers. Now, he did gold, which means $10 a month, but we only ask for 5, so he's done twice as much as what we asked. You can do it as well over at amp.freetalklive.com. You can sign up with credit card or PayPal or Bitcoin BTC. It's amp.freetalklive.com. So, we're gearing up here. I mean, we're not going anywhere. But there's a lot of people who are gearing up for a massive protest tomorrow, both the protesters and the police, with huge numbers expected on both sides, apparently. Road closures are expected, extensive police presence. State and federal officials are preparing for a volatile mix of weapons, passions, and anti-government fervor. The governor has restricted the airspace and has declared a state of emergency and has banned firearms or other weapons on Capitol grounds. On Thursday, the FBI arrested 3 alleged members of a white supremacist group on gun charges, in part of concern, or out of concern, that they plan to attend the Richmond rally and incite violence. So, again, they're already creating a narrative here.
Absolutely.
Oh, see? There's Nazis in that there crowd, and they're going to start something, so therefore we need to make sure there's no rights. And they've already arrested people, and so that's not a good sign. It does not bode well for what's going to happen tomorrow. We've seen a lot of evidence in the past at various different rallies of different sorts where government agents will dress as though they are a protester. They call them agents provocateur. And
look for the boots. That's
one tip that some. I mean, they probably heard that one by now, so maybe they've learned their lesson. But cops also have a certain look to them. Some of them do. I mean, some are good at blending in, but others.
It's hard to lose that much muscle mass off of steroids in that short a period.
Yeah, you can usually tell, but sometimes they have cops that don't look like cops.
Let's go to your calls and thoughts here. We got Dan in Virginia. You're on Free Talk Live. He's listening to WNIS in Norfolk. Go ahead, Dan. Dan? Do we have Dan in Virginia?
Talk tonight.
Hi, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah,
we got you now.
Yeah, in Virginia. And I've been listening to you guys talk tonight. I'm still debating on whether to go up tomorrow or tonight.
Mm-hmm.
And
be safe if you do.
It may be out of his hands.
The entire issue is a created issue that it's going to put a lot of people at risk. It's potentially going to light off a big fight. And I was out today with my single-shot 20-gauge shotgun. It's far more lethal than an AR-15.
Sure.
And I can get off shots just about as fast. And, getting hit with buckshot rather than a 22 caliber round is a lot more lethal. So, it's ignorance behind a lot of this.
Well, the gun grabbers might also say that that's a good reason to take away the AR-15s, though, because you still have that 12-gauge buckshot that can do the damage anyway.
Well, now, what are they proposing exactly to do? I mean, I've heard there are multiple bills to restrict gun rights in Virginia. Have there been proposals to take away all guns, or is it just the so-called assault rifle AR-15 kinds?
Well, what they are going at is, yes, what a lot of people call the black guns, the ones that look scary, like the AR-15.
Right.
And then they're going after magazine capacity, but they've got wording at the very end of the bills that say, or any firearm capable of accepting such a magazine.
Oh.
And so that gets into all of your Glocks and SIGs and just a huge number of the carry guns nowadays.
Yeah, because you can accept the larger capacity magazine. It just extends beyond the handle.
Right. Even though you don't, maybe you've gone down to a 7-round or something like the guy in Virginia Beach used. I was there that night, and he used 45 caliber handguns with a 7-round magazine and killed 12. no, and I was down there looking for a college intern that actually the guy walked right up and stared him in the face and then walked off. And, and Virginia Beach didn't tell the truth about it. That guy had had a lot of physical altercations and was on the road to being fired. And so, it's just so much fraud in politics now.
Sure. Well, it's always been that way.
Yeah, I don't know. On the gun issue, you look at the shootings, Sandy Hook, a number of them around, and the ratio is usually 3 killed to 7 wounded. And then you look at the Washington Navy Yard, where it used a 12-gauge pump with buckshot, 7 killed to 3 wounded. And so, there's no meat behind this. There's no intelligent thought or science behind it. And I know a lot of cops, and I know a lot of cops have said, I am not going to do this. I will quit my job and go work for a sheriff's department.
Well, they're going to have the opportunity to prove that tomorrow, right? If they can't get cops to man the checkpoints.
Yeah.
Well, no, they didn't say they wouldn't man the checkpoints. They just said they wouldn't confiscate guns, right?
Right.
Which,
they're
of course,
not going door to door.
Yeah.
And a state trooper I know told me that a retired Marine down in Emporia had talked to a trooper sergeant. A retired Marine just lost his son. He said, I got nothing else to live for. So, we've been friends a long time. Don't come to my house, because one of us isn't going away vertical.
Well, he's a state trooper. They're not going to take his gun from him.
No, the retired Marine was talking to the trooper.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay,
I
thought that was the same person.
Giving him warning up front. Don't even consider this. And
interesting.
I think that probably, I don't know, around 80% of the troopers would not want to do it, just on ethical reasons alone. And then there's all the safety reasons. Most of the guns that people use for hunting will blow right through 2 or 3 of their vests, so they really have no protection. And if somebody is waiting for them and is set up, back in a backyard or in a place where they don't expect him, and they all show up and want to break in and confiscate, yes. The police are the ones I feel for. This governor got himself in trouble by talking about killing babies after birth and then having his little Klan photograph and the stuff being Coon Man on his VMI senior page of the annual. And so he was pretty much finished. And then Bloomberg comes in and says, I'm going to ship money to you. And we get this wave of Democrats. And I heard you talking earlier about the people should expect this. And obviously, no, the people did not expect this. The people were asleep.
Well, do you see a political solution out of this, aside from just voting for the next round of politicians?
Oh, to take that out?
Yeah. Is it possible that the governor will back down at some point?
No,
and walk away?
I don't think he will.
He's got nothing to lose. I mean, he's already in office. I mean, he could lose the next re-election, but beyond that, I mean, if he sticks with this, there's no real punishment to him. He's just...
Well, that is the punishment as a politician, right? You won't get reelected. So unless he's up at a term limits...
Yeah, I don't know if they even have term limits there.
That would be the disincentive to him.
Dan, let us know if you decide to attend tomorrow, or feel free to call us tomorrow. I know we're not on the air there on Monday nights, but we're still here. We're still doing a show every single day. So feel free to call in with your opinions tomorrow. I appreciate hearing from you tonight. That's Dan in Virginia. Open phones as always. You can join us here, 855-450 free like freedom. Talk about the guns.
Are you sick of hearing the same crap on libertarian podcasts? Inside jokes, interviews of the same person you've heard 50 times? Then you need to listen to the Lava Flow podcast. No nonsense and to the point. Get the information you need and get out. You won't hear the latest libertarian circle jerk news here, but instead hard-hitting anti-statist news with me, Roger Paxton, shooting from the lip. LAVA stands for Libertarian, Anarcho-Capitalist, Voluntarist, and Agrist. And if you think you fit any of these categories, then this is the podcast for you. Listen now at thelavaflow.com to find out what's rustling my jimmies, what's in the news, the latest bad cop, stupid stuff statists are saying, and so much more. You can find out more and subscribe on any podcatcher at thelavaflow.com. That's thelavaflow.com, part of the Pax Libertas Productions podcast network.
Free Talk Live.
It's Free Talk Live. We are here on this live Sunday edition. Tomorrow is a holiday, at least for most government workers. But if you're in Richmond, Virginia, there's a good chance, and you're in law enforcement, there's a good chance you've been told to come in because there's going to be a huge government response to what is expected to be thousands of gun rights supporters who are gathering in Richmond, Virginia. We will continue to take your calls and thoughts about it with you tonight. It's Ian.
Rich.
And Melanie.
Let's go back to your phone calls and thoughts here. We do have Bill on the line with us in Richmond, Virginia, which is where this conflict is expected tomorrow. And Bill, you're somehow listening to WNIS in Norfolk. Is that anywhere near Richmond? I don't know my geography in Virginia very well.
It's been an hour and 20 minutes. I live down in the Norfolk area. I actually work up in Richmond. I'm actually a PD at a radio station in Richmond that does not carry free talk yet. So just give me time.
Okay.
Get working on it.
We're working on it. As a matter of fact, I've got 3 messages on my desk from Ian Friedman, so I'll get around to it, I swear.
Cool.
Wanted to answer the last caller real quick. The Virginia governor, Ralph, we like to call him Ralph Mammy Northam because of his blackface performances, but they are limited to one term at a time, so he has nothing to worry about. And we're already expecting, we're already expecting Justin Fairfax, the lieutenant governor that's been accused by about 15 women of sexual assault. He's probably going to be our next governor here in the proud Commonwealth. I was calling to let you folks know, we've been asking our listeners to not go downtown tomorrow. They are expecting, and when we are as well, thousands and thousands of people from all over the country. So we've been asking people, don't make it worse, don't make it more congested, and don't add to the tension. I am not a conspiracy guy. However, there are some times, as you guys know, that you just smell a false flag in the wind, and part of me, my gut maybe as a 31-year journalist, just feel like something's going to happen tomorrow. And ideally speaking, something will happen tomorrow for the far left. It would be a paradise for the far left if something did go wrong tomorrow. I like to remind people, Charlottesville, Virginia, which everyone likes to point at and quote, what happened in Charlottesville, aside from the idiot with the car running over the poor girl, but the fight that broke out in Charlottesville was started by Antifa, bought and paid for by our buddy George Soros. That was not a pro-Constitution fight that broke out. That was guys that were there opposing the Constitutionalists. But I say all that to say, if anyone in Richmond, Virginia is listening, just stay home. It's not worth it. Don't be a part of it. This is ideal for the far left. And we had, by the way, not to cut you off, I know you're limited on time. I'm trying to get everything in.
You're good, man.
We had the exact same rally in December. Phil, God forgive me, Phil Van Cleef, I think is his name, that organizes these things. I've never met him. He's very active in Virginia politics. Phil had a rally similar to this. About 300 people showed up in the rain, by the way. We stood in the rain. I was there on behalf of the station with a couple of our news guys to cover the event. Scattered police present, nothing major. The Capitol Police, of course, were there. Some of the Richmond locals were there. All of the radio, TV, newspapers were there. Nothing happened. There were no problems. No protesters even showed up.
Did it have the kind of buildup, though, like this one does?
did not, which
Yeah.
kind of makes you wonder what's different about this one. That's what's in the back of my head. I'm thinking, why are we getting this Hollywood-style dramatic build-up? The eyes of the nation all of a sudden are on poor little Richmond, Virginia, where
because this is a test case. It's a test case.
Exactly.
That's
exactly.
why.
And
For both
what's the
sides.
best- Yep. What is the best time to put all of your cards on the table and pull that ace out of your sleeve, other than when the entire nation is watching?
Right. So when you say like people shouldn't go down there, how else? Like what's a better methodology to like voice your discontent or to demonstrate your discontent to what the governor and the politicians there are doing?
Go to the governor's house.
Okay, that's a fair answer, right? But then you still got to get off your ass and go out and do something that day.
I don't have an issue going to the governor's house. Oddly, he never invites me. I don't understand the problem.
Oh, I don't mean you're going to sit down for dinner with him. But one of the things that, one of the mistakes that I think they're making here is by telegraphing their move so far in advance and so loudly. If you could get 100 people quietly to just show up at the governor's mansion or wherever it is that he lives, because like in some state, like here in New Hampshire, the governor doesn't actually live at like some state place. They just live in their house.
Right.
Is it that way in Virginia? Does the governor like live in a state mansion, or does the governor just kind of live wherever he lives?
There is a governor's mansion. They are allowed, of course, to live wherever they'd like. I would assume Ralph Mammy Northam likes to live in the governor's mansion because he's that kind of a guy.
Sure.
That would be the first to stand up in a room and proudly announce that he is the governor, indeed, and deserves special attention. To answer the question, what can people do? The problem here in November of 2019, and God knows I was on the air covering this debacle that took place on Election Day, and let me preface by saying I have a sticker in my office that very proudly says I wasn't born Democrat, Republican, or yesterday. So, I don't really have a dog in the race other than I like my freedom. I don't own a gun, by the way, but if I want to buy one, I'd like the honor of doing so. But less than 38% of people turned out in Virginia in November of 2019.
Now, wait, 38% of registered voters or 38% of the population?
38% of registered voters, which, by the way, is way too low.
Yeah, it's not a mandate, for sure.
No. I've always said, and I'm sure I stole this from somebody, as all of us in radio have stolen everything from somebody in the past, but bad governments are elected by stupid people who don't vote. And that's what happened.
Well, I don't know, man. I mean, even if a bunch of elected or even if a bunch of smart people go out and vote, they're usually voting for a bunch of scumbags who are going to give you bad government anyway.
The sad thing is the system we have is the system we have. We are nowhere near changing the system. We are nowhere near a multi-party system. And unfortunately, in my humble opinion, we have to work with what we have. And I have always been a person who voted for the individual rather than the party. I enjoy your show, for example. I don't agree 100% with everything you guys talk about.
Thank God. Otherwise, we wouldn't have anything to talk about.
Well, that's what I tell people. I do afternoons in Richmond, and I say, if you agree with me, God, please don't call me. Number one, if you agree with me, it'll be boring.
Yeah.
And number two, if you think like I do, obviously you shouldn't be allowed to communicate with other people. Something's wrong with you.
Well, plug your station, man. What station do you program / work at?
We are 92.7 FM and 820 AM. We are a 10,000-watt clear station. We can be heard from Richmond all the way down into Norfolk and Virginia Beach.
Boom.
And if I ever get around to returning these 3 sticky notes that say, please call Ian Freeman, the second one says, you forgot to call Ian Freeman, and the third one is from the assistant program director, George, and it says, for God's sake, call Ian Freeman.
Oh, well, that's very nice, Bill. Well, thank you for finally calling, and it was actually a really good call, man. I appreciate it. So are you guys going to not send anybody tomorrow to cover this? I mean, you're telling people not to go. Does that mean your station's going to not cover it directly?
I am asking the 13 people that listen to me in the afternoons to stay home. And we are not sending a news team because I just have a feeling, and sometimes those feelings are right. So,
I'm sure your phones will be open tomorrow afternoon for listeners to call in, though, if they are there. I imagine, right?
Yes.
And there's going to be plenty of coverage. Otherwise,
Yes. And matter of fact, I might call you and have you on tomorrow afternoon. You never know.
That'd be cool. Hey, man, Bill, thanks. I appreciate your call.
Have a good one, man. Thanks.
Good luck tomorrow.
Bye-bye.
All right, so your calls, thoughts also welcome here. Toll-free number is 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. Just to be clear, when I call radio stations, I don't bang down their door. Like if he's got 3 notes from, to call me, it's probably been 9 months. I don't call but like once a quarter. So that's how many notes would accumulate over 9 months.
You're not persistent enough anyway, then.
No, you don't want to bang down somebody's door. That's not respectful. All right, so you can join us here. The toll-free number is 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. And take control of the airwaves on Free Talk Live. It's Free Talk Live, and you can join us here. The toll-free number is 855-450-FREE like freedom. That's 855-450-3733. Free Talk Live brought to you by AnyPay. If you want more businesses accepting Bitcoin Cash and Dash, you really need to get over to anypayinc.com. You can now finally get a financial incentive to spread Bitcoin Cash and Dash. Meaning you get passive income for every purchase made of the businesses that you get signed up with AnyPay. That's their AnyPay Ambassador program, and to do it, you do need to have your own AnyPay account. That's easy enough to do. Just download the AnyPay Cash Register app, get it set up with your cryptocurrency wallet addresses, then install AnyPay's Cash Register app at a real-life business and tell them what you did at anypayinc.com. It's anypayinc.com. As we continue, we will take your calls and thoughts here. We've been discussing the Virginia scheduled protest for tomorrow. Some are expecting as many as 10,000. The Virginia Citizens Defense League is hoping their supporters will be coming unarmed to fill Capitol Square and have asked several times that many stand outside with weapons. So again, the governor in Virginia has issued a decree claiming state of emergency. He's then banning the possession of any kind of weapons in the Capitol, whatever that area happens to be. And then they're saying, well, if you're outside of the Capitol area, then you should stand with weapons. The Virginia Citizens Defense League, this according to GreenwichTime.com, a pro-gun advocacy group, sponsors what has always been a peaceful rally every year on Lobby Day, which coincides with the state's Martin Luther King Jr. holiday. So this is actually a regular occurrence, this particular event. With children out of school and state offices closed, it's a time for citizens to come to the Capitol and lobby lawmakers on a variety of issues. But if the lawmakers aren't actually there, I've always had this objection, like when the 420 celebrations we've done here many years in New Hampshire. We've done them for more than, I think, about like a decade at this point, maybe 11 years, 10 years, something like that. And we go to the State House. It's 4:20 in the afternoon. Now, a lot of times, a lot of the legislators are gone by then.
Okay.
But on a Saturday or Sunday, they're definitely not there. So you're not really lobbying anybody if you're standing outside of the State House when no one's home.
Are you planning on doing it every day in the month of April this year?
No, why?
Because it's
2020?
Because it's 04 all of 20?
That's too much smoking.
Well, for you, maybe. But,
any smoking is too much smoking for me, but smoking every day...
I think our co-host Nobody would actually appreciate that idea.
Well, run with it then.
Yeah,
I'm not going to be here for that.
I'm not going to spend that kind of time on it either. But
I mean, that would just be expensive. Like, that's a lot of weed.
Well, you can have like one person organize it and then just have different people show up and just do an event every day.
Well, Melanie, just so you know, we did do 420s every day in Keene, New Hampshire back in 2009 for months.
So 1 month is nothing for you guys.
Yeah. Okay. No, we did it to some extent when it started getting cold. It did die off during the wintertime, but we were out there from like September, probably all the way through November.
Okay, well that's a major commitment.
Yeah, it was. Well, I mean, but we didn't have to drive to Concord or anything. I mean, we're just walking down to the Central Square.
Well, yeah, but you still gotta have time to do it every day.
That's true.
Have time to be high afterwards every day, and then spend that much money on weed.
Most of the people that were attending the 420s were already doing it inside their homes.
So they just came out.
They just went to another location. So tomorrow. Well, let's get back to your phone calls here, actually. We got Graham. He's on the line in Pennsylvania, listening via the TuneIn app. Go ahead, Graham.
Yeah, about the Virginia gun march they're going to have tomorrow?
Yes, sir.
The way I look at it, the whole thing is just a complete waste of time because the government, they're still going to pass maybe not a law, but a regulation or a statute, anything like that. And besides, they don't really have to take your guns. All they would have to do is freeze your bank account and have Child Protective Services kidnap your kids at school.
There are other tactics, yes.
Yeah, they can do a lot of horrifying things to peaceful people. The fact is, them having guns gives them the ability to do easy violence against people, and they, to some extent, them knowing that the population has guns can keep them to some extent from stepping over certain boundaries. And it's going to be a tricky situation tomorrow. What are you expecting to happen, Graham? You said nothing?
Just a bunch of big noise. There may be one or two minor incidents, hopefully not a major one.
Hopefully.
Mostly everyone will just be standing around hoping for something major to happen so they can put it on CNN or Fox News or put it on a Twitter feed or something like that.
I don't like the idea that when you said that they can come, after your kids or freeze your bank account, like who wants to live under that system to begin with? Right. If they already have that power and they already have that ability, again, same question as before. At what point do you go like, that's the line. We're not going to take it. You can freeze the bank account. You can do what you want. But now we're standing up for freedom. Now we're standing up for liberty. And we're not going to let you take the guns, regardless of whatever law or regulation you pass, because you've already gone too far. And now we're drawing our line in the sand, and you will not cross.
Yeah, that's a good point. But, it's just a matter of who has the wherewithal, who can wait and stand till the other person blinks and goes home.
Good question.
There's no easy answers to this. Graham, thank you for the call tonight. I appreciate it. And what if they took somebody's gun, but then they got a ghost gunner and they built another one? That way they had secret guns. Because if they know where your guns are, they can come take them easily, right? Like if they know that if you're on some registry, if you have told the government, hey, I'm over here, I got guns, well, then they're going to come to you at some point if that's what they want to do. If they want to do door-to-door confiscations, they're going to go to the houses where they know for sure there's guns.
First, yeah.
Maybe they'll go door-to-door literally and search every home if they really go insane. But if you've got a ghost gunner from Defense Distributed, which they're not an advertiser, but I fully support the thing that they do, you can make a gun basically from the associated pieces, and there's no serial number attached to it.
You still run into the problem of if they come to your house to get your legal guns,
right?
And you give those up, and then you pull out the ghost gun, you're still outnumbered, right? And if you're not on the list and you have the ghost gunner and you're just like, oh, I just have a gun in my house, and you never have to use it for anything, then cool, right? But the minute you have to draw and defend yourself, you're on the radar.
Yeah,
the minute you draw against the police, you're on the radar. So you can't even use it to defend yourself without attracting their attention.
Well, obviously, you're going to attract attention if you defend yourself.
Cops or not, if you pull a gun on somebody, you're going to draw some attention from them.
Sure. But if there's no gun ban laws, right? That's a legitimate use of self-defense and a legitimate use of a self-defense tool, right? And they have no reason to come and confiscate you or put you on a list because that's the freedom you have to defend yourself in what should be, the United States of America, right? You might draw attention, but it's not illegal. If they ban guns and you draw a ghost gun to defend yourself, right, you have also just broken the law, and they will get you for that.
They're going to get you if that's what they want to do. That much is for sure.
Yeah.
The toll-free number here is 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. One of our callers earlier suggesting that some of these cops will not enforce the law. One caller predicted as many as 80% of police would not go along with it. I hope that's true.
No way it's that high.
Yeah, I'm not as optimistic either. But
scabs and new recruits to fill in the spots.
Yeah, 855-450-FREE. That's the toll-free number here, and you can share your thoughts. We're live on Sunday night as always. This is Free Talk Live. Have you heard of LibertyCon? LibertyCon is not only a convention with great speakers like Whole Foods CEO and co-founder John Mackey and Nobel Prize winner Vernon Smith, but it's also unique because you get a chance to network with more than 70 pro-liberty organizations, one-on-one for the purpose of career advancement, business, and internship opportunities. April 3rd through 5th in Washington, D.C. You can learn more by visiting libertycon.com and use code FTL for a $10 discount on your registration. That's libertycon.com. Hey, it's Free Talk Live. You can join us here. Toll-free number 855-450-FREE, like freedom. That's 855-450-3733. People, calling in tonight speculating about what exactly is going to go down tomorrow in Richmond, Virginia, with a massive pro-gun protest expected to be there, pro-gun rights protest. People are concerned that the Virginia government gang is going to come around and confiscate weapons and make large capacity magazines illegal, and there's all kinds of other proposals apparently on the table to restrict gun rights there. We've been talking to folks actually mostly from Virginia tonight, callers listening to a massive station that we have out in Norfolk, WNIS, longtime affiliate here on Free Talk Live. With us, or with you in the studio tonight, it's Ian,
Richie Rich,
and Melanie. And
I do want to invite you to join us at LibertyCon coming up here in April. We are going to be close to Virginia, not quite. We'll be in D.C., which is even worse.
Gross.
But there's going to be a pretty great convention to attend, so that's the reason why it's going to be like the first time I've been in D.C. for like a decade. And so I'm looking forward to this convention, not only because you're going to get to see some great speakers like John Mackey from Whole Foods, the CEO there, Vernon Smith, Nobel Prize winner in economics, Miriam Issa, pop culture expert, Nassim Nicholas Taleb, who's the author of The Black Swan, and others, but also there'll be 70 pro-liberty organizations who are going to be present. So if you need to advance your career, your business, and internship opportunities, this is going to be a great networking event for that. And you can go to libertycon.com to learn more about the event. Use code FTL. You'll save $10 on your registration, which it's less than $100 to go to this thing for a 3-day convention in D.C.
That's impressive.
That's shockingly affordable. And you even get discounted rooms at the hotel, the Marriott Marquis. Plus, if you're a student, you get half-price tickets. And they've got travel scholarships, so they'll help you get there. That's how bad they want young people to show up to this event. LibertyCon.com, use code FTL, and you save $10. And it's April 3rd through the 5th, so we will see you there as we go back to your calls and thoughts. Gene, the Christian anarchist, you're on Free Talk Live. Go ahead, Gene.
Yeah, I knew as soon as I tried to eat that you'd put me on. Okay,
do you want me to put you back on hold? I got other calls in Virginia. Go ahead.
Oh, heck no. I can wait. Yeah, I would love to say something about the guns, but first, I called about statistics. You know, when in the medical industry, we see a lot about statistics. Mm-hmm. And Mark Twain once said, there are 3 kinds of lies: damned lies, and statistics. Mm-hmm. That's right. And I'll give you a quick example. It won't take but a second. Let's say you got a drug company wants to prove their drug's better than their drug A is better than drug B. So they'll do a study, say they got 1,000 people taking drug A, 1,000 people taking drug B. And they say, well, in drug A, we had 3 deaths of heart attack, but in drug B, we had 4 deaths from heart attack. So they're trying to prove to you that their drug is safer. Well, if you look at the actual raw numbers, you're talking about a very, very small difference. So this is why you should always look at the raw data rather than statistics, because they're going to tell you that drug B has a 25% higher rate of heart attack. Now, obviously, if you saw the numbers yourself, you would say, big deal. You know, maybe Group A had people that were healthier than Group B. Maybe the Group B people weren't as healthy.
It's just one more person, statistically insignificant.
Absolutely. If you look at the numbers, they're barely above the statistical rate of 0, you know. So, and they do this with everything. They do it with climate change. I mean, people do it with climate change. People do it with, sales. Anything they're trying to sell you, they're going to say, oh, well, this is 25% better than that. Well, if you look at the numbers, you'll see that the studies that they base all this stuff on, if they're not outright lying, is usually just a stretch, a real stretch of the truth.
Sure.
So,
I mean, how many times have we seen it in the world of guns? Just to come back to the topic we've been discussing tonight, a gun-related death doesn't mean somebody's been shot necessarily. In the same way that,
and a lot of those are cops shooting people, innocent people.
I mean, a lot of those are suicides. That's what it almost mostly is.
A good number of them are suicides, and I just saw an article about how in Norway, rated as the happiest country on the planet. You know, people with the happiest existence.
Yeah. Highest suicide
however
rate.
They come up with happiness rating. Yeah, they also have the highest suicide rating.
Interesting.
So figure that one out. More lives.
Well,
that's one way to do it. I mean, not how I would go, but that's one way to accomplish that.
Well, yeah, right. So if the sad people are killing themselves, then you have the happiest society. Is that what you're saying, Melanie?
Yeah.
Is it statistically significant?
That's like the communists. They want to keep the society happy. So they solve that problem by killing all the unhappy.
There is an episode of Doctor Who about that.
Thank you, Gene, for the call tonight. I appreciate hearing from you. Let's go to more of your calls and thoughts. Dave is in Yorktown, Virginia, listening to WNIS out there. Hello, Dave.
Hey, how are y'all doing tonight?
Good. You're on the air.
Yep. Anyway, I heard earlier you were talking about the amount of people or the percentage of officers that possibly wouldn't do a mandate, and retaliate to take our weapons and stuff. And I think the figure was something like 80%. I got a couple of the guys that I've been talking to. They're on the force. They're sworn in to do the Constitution of the United States and not per se the Constitution of Virginia. It's a fine line on that, but they are sworn in to do the Constitution. So when you look at Article 6 of our Constitution, what was it? Where it states that any state law that's passed that doesn't directly adhere to our Constitution is null and void. So the big thing, I think, is they're trying to take that one big step, that big leap where they can take it from us, our weapons. And, of course, we see what happened with Venezuela about 5 years ago before, they ended up like they did. Then they took their weapons away. And, of course, you see and you see what's happened to them because once the people are, disarmed, and, of course, that everything starts going downhill, kind of like, what was it, 97, Tony Blair took all the guns away over there in Great Britain, and now everything.
That long ago? Was it already? Was it 97?
I do believe it was 97, but could be wrong. But I mean,
it did happen. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, right. And so now they're thinking about passing a law where you can't even have a knife. Because we hear things.
No, they already did that in Great Britain. Now. Are you saying they're doing that in Virginia?
Okay. No. I'm talking about the knife thing. They'll eventually, once they outlaw the guns, of course, then they are going to outlaw the knives.
They did.
That's the only thing everybody's getting killed with.
I've got a headline where there's a new knife manufacturer in Great Britain making square-tipped knives because you can't have a pointy tip there anymore.
Oh my God.
Right. And then it'll be hatchets and then big rocks. Like, back in the day, everybody would get stoned, you know what I'm saying? Other than the 420 thing.
Yeah.
But I mean,
bad kind of stone.
Right. I mean, come on. Let's play with that a little bit. But, what I kind of see happening up there in Richmond, they're trying to, of course, definitely take our rights away. And in Virginia, our Constitution states that we have a right to have a militia and to protect ourselves.
Right.
And everybody should have that, you know what I'm saying? Because back in the day, they had a weapon for, when they did the Constitution thing, everybody had weapons to hunt with. You didn't have Food Line and Costco and all that.
Right.
So you had a weapon on your mantle to go get your grub for the evening. So they weren't talking about, going out and shooting rabbit and stuff like that. They were talking about, look at the flag of Virginia. You got a guy standing on top of another one. He took a nice little selfie there. But the guy on the bottom side of that got his crown off. And it says what it means there in Latin. You know what I'm saying? So when you start looking at the big picture, they've seen this before. They saw it in England. I'm sure they saw it over here with certain forces back because, history repeats itself. And so you need to, I think, watch this carefully because if we don't, this is just the first step at all the rest of the rights being taken. If they can get this one and they can get our weapons, which we won't take it. Okay, they're saying estimates from 50 to 120,000 will show up now.
All right, well, we'll see, because there's, it's talk is cheap, and then showing up is a whole other story. So we'll find out. Hey, Dave, I appreciate your opinion here tonight. Thanks for sharing it with us. The toll-free number is 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. Whether it's gun rights or whatever is on your mind, you can bring up other things here on Free Talk Live. You can take control of the airwaves. 855-450-FREE. The live Sunday edition continues. It's Free Talk Live. Toll-free number here is 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. And apparently, there are going to be some committees that are meeting in Virginia tomorrow. I figured the state government was going to take the day off because it's Martin Luther King Day. I know federal agencies like banks, I mean, they're not federal, but they basically are. Yeah. Banks take the day off. Is mail delivered tomorrow? Is mail delivery a thing on Martin Luther King?
It's a federal holiday, so no.
Right. So I figured the state government bureaucrats and politicians.
Amazon will still deliver, though.
Virginia might consider themselves to be part of the South and not celebrate MLK Day.
Could be. Well, apparently, according to the story over at GreenwichTime.com about the massive protests expected tomorrow, the governor told all, quote, non-essential staff, unquote, to stay home, and many lawmakers urged aides to stay away, though committees will still meet and both chambers will convene for floor sessions. So they will be there.
Okay.
I presumed that they weren't going to be there tomorrow. The young pages who run errands in the House and Senate were given the day off for safety.
You also questioned whether the governor was going to be in the Capitol for safety reasons as well.
I did question that, and that's not clear here in this story, at least so far. The Coalition to Stop Gun Violence canceled its annual vigil and lobbying day, announcing the decision on Twitter, quote, with a heavy heart. The gun organization's state director, Lori Haas, said it was because of, quote, ongoing credible threats to public safety that have been promoted by gun extremists. We'll continue here.
If there's going to be gun violence, I would not want to be in like the corralled area unarmed.
Hell
right?
No.
Right. Like you just completely eliminate your ability to defend yourself, fight back should something happen.
Right. Then you're counting on the police to defend you, and good luck with that.
Good luck. They don't even want to because they're like, these people are creating me extra work.
Yeah. Either the police or the gun rights activists outside the corral zone, right, outside the protest area.
And we're going to talk about that a little bit more here, but we're going to go to your phone calls and thoughts first. Also, do want to let you know about Bitcoin.com. They have launched a trading platform at local.bitcoin.com, allowing you to buy or sell Bitcoin Cash with dozens of payment methods. And there are no identification requirements to sign up for the site. Plus, communications between buyers and sellers are encrypted. It is a global trading platform that actually respects your privacy, which really sets it apart. You can go to local.bitcoin.com and get started trading Bitcoin Cash. That's local.bitcoin.com. Let's go to Jim. He's in Virginia Beach listening to WNIS. Go ahead, Jim.
Hey, Ian, you kind of stole my thunder reading part of that article there.
Sorry, Jim.
Here's the thing. Remember, Richmond was the capital of the Confederacy, and we do celebrate, unfortunately, Lee Jackson Day on Friday.
Ah,
so that was their day off. On Monday, oh, yes, Martin Luther King Day, sure. They're all going to be at work in Richmond. It's a normal lobby day is just a normal working day for everybody at the state capitol.
Interesting.
What does lobby day usually look like down there?
Well, I was there once a couple of years ago, and basically the town's kind of empty, which is nice because it makes it easy to find parking.
Mm-hmm.
But all of the office building where the Pocahontas office building, not Elizabeth Warren building, but that building is in full function, full swing. It's kind of lobby day, but it's also a normal day where all of your delegates and your senators are voting on stuff in the afternoon, talking to people in the morning. And I saw that there was a gun rights group that they're out in front of the building. There's a park there. And that's kind of where all the protesting will go on, from what I understand and what I've seen in the past. But the problem is that a lot of people don't understand how we got here. And I worked a poll back in November, and let me tell you, I was there from the time they opened until the time they closed, and I saw things that, were kind of strange. But when I went to the quote-unquote victory party, and this was not a member of the Republican Party, but I do try to help them. And so I went to the quote-unquote victory party, and I got there, after 7, because that's when the polls closed, but it was closer to 9 o'clock, and there were no numbers as far as any precincts reporting from the State Board of Elections that night. And I asked, where's the numbers? Why don't we know what? Later on, I was told the State Board of Elections was claiming that they were hacked. Okay. There were another bunch of unusual circumstances on this past November on Election Day. Precincts ran out of ballots. How do you run out of ballots? Every precinct captain knows how many people should be voting, don't they? Yes, they do. Well, how many ballots can you spoil and not wonder if something going on? Police had to escort ballots to precincts, and precincts were also kept open after 7 o'clock. Look, I don't believe any of the people, millions, tens of millions, who knows how much money was put into, Democrat, campaigns from out of state and, for all we know, out of this country.
Well, so you're saying you believe something sneaky was going on.
I know things were stank from the very beginning.
Like they literally stole the election.
So, look, we're talking about Donald Trump and all of the issues of having other countries involved in throwing an election one way or another. And here we had people from every other state and maybe other countries.
No, I can't say that you didn't experience what you experienced. Obviously, you did. Right. However, this is what happened in a lot of places in 2018. Was you got the swinging of the pendulum swung back toward the Democrats, right? It happened here in New Hampshire. It happened down there in Virginia. Trump won in 2016. His supporters came out in droves. And then in 2018, they didn't come out. And we had a caller earlier who said that was only a 38% turnout of registered voters.
Yeah.
So I don't know what percentage of the adult population is registered, but it's not the full it's not the full 100%. So it's some amount less than 100.
So how do precincts run out of ballots
if there's only 38%?
Right.
That's a great question.
Okay, we do have motor voters, so there's all people who are probably voting who don't even live in the precincts they're in. Look, I don't have any faith in the system as far as it goes, because it seems like and this can go either way. Whoever cheats the most, obviously, will be the winner. But in this case, okay, this was a really big deal to flip, because they only needed a couple seats to take over the State House. Mm-hmm. Okay, and the thing is that once again, we're talking about we have a governor who nobody wants to talk about his his racist tendencies from long ago and that, and here we're still celebrating Lee Jackson Day.
Amazing.
I'm not originally from Virginia. I'm from New York, so I don't claim any of that heritage. But
well, Jim, I want to say thank you for calling and sharing your perspective here tonight. I definitely appreciate hearing from you. The toll-free number is 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. That's weird, running out of ballots. That seems
it's a little sketchy.
Seems pretty suspicious, but at the same time, it's also not unusual to see that pendulum swinging where the opposition redoubles their efforts and they're like, oh, we got to take it back, and then they get out there and they spend the money, and they got money coming in from outside, and for
the
whatever
Republicans
reason,
think they won, so now they don't have to come out.
Yeah, for whatever reason, they just don't come out in those off-year elections. So I suspect you're going to see once again another pushback from Republicans in 2020 here. Because they lost in 2018 in a lot of cases. Here in New Hampshire, the state house went from being Republican majority to a Democrat majority as sort of the pushback against what happened in 2016. So,
and they're trying to push through new taxes.
And gun restrictions as well. But in this case, we have a Republican governor because for whatever reason that New Hampshire people, and I don't think they're intending to do this. It just sort of comes out this way, where they've managed to be pretty good about like always putting one party up against the other and like creating a gridlock situation where it'll go from like a Democrat-controlled state rep or representatives, and then it'll switch to Republicans after 2 more years, and the Republicans will undo like the worst stuff the Democrats did, and then the Democrats will get in and they'll undo some of the worst stuff the Republicans did, and they'll pass some bad stuff too. But then they keep fighting over control, and at the same time, you usually have a governor that's sort of the opposite of whatever the legislature is. So like a lot of the worst stuff doesn't even get passed because it gets vetoed. So like
that's not an ideal situation either. Like
why not?
Well, the ideal situation would be no state whatsoever,
right? Because every 2 years you gotta abide by a new set of laws, and then 2 years.
Well, I don't abide by
I got some freedom
laws,
again,
I mean,
but you got other restrictions. Yeah,
you don't abide by their laws,
no,
do you? Yeah, me neither. 855,
to the best of my ability.
Right? 855-450 free. That's 855-450-3733. But as far as the growth of the state is concerned, it's a slow process here in New Hampshire. There's more coming up. You can join us. Hour 3 is next. It's Free Talk Live. Bitcoin.com has launched a trading platform at local.bitcoin.com, allowing you to buy or sell Bitcoin Cash via dozens of payment methods like PayPal, Venmo, bank deposit, remittances, or meeting in person with cash. There are no ID requirements to sign up for and use the site, and all communications between buyers and sellers are encrypted. Finally, a global trading platform that respects your privacy. Visit local.bitcoin.com to get started trading Bitcoin Cash. Local.bitcoin.com.
Free Talk Live.
It's Free Talk Live, and we are kicking off the third hour of this live Sunday edition of the program. We have been all Richmond, all guns, all night here so far tonight. With you, it's Ian.
Rich.
And Melanie.
And you can bring up anything that you want. It doesn't have to be what might happen tomorrow. There's been a lot of speculation, obviously, on how big this big protest is supposed to be. The government gang there in Richmond is certainly expecting it to be large. They're doing a lot of preparations, including a gun ban during this particular gun protest. Actually, I'm not sure for how long this gun ban's going to last. I don't know if it's only expected to be the one day or if it's just from now on.
Well, until he lifts the state of emergency.
Until he lifts, right, which, of course, many states of emergency have never been lifted. Why bother? I mean, if you can just implement a state of emergency and then garner more power for yourself, why would you ever want to let that go if you are a power-seeking sicko? So that's what we're dealing with here. And so the question is, how big is this rally going to be? Is it going to be a peaceful rally? Will it be disturbed by agents provocateur trying to stir up violence so there's an excuse to start shooting on the crowd? Will somebody successfully sneak a gun through a checkpoint? Will there be someone shot at a checkpoint? You're not going to take my guns from me here. Bam. Who knows? Anything could go down tomorrow, or it'll be completely non-eventful and nobody shows up. I mean, so
best case scenario.
There's a whole. Well, I don't know what the best case scenario is. Honestly, I don't know if it would be a bad thing if there was a shootout.
Okay.
I mean, obviously, people dying is a bad thing, but as you guys pointed out earlier in the show, if the government keeps going in the direction of, well, we want to start confiscating people's guns, then eventually, likely, somebody's going to get shot over it.
Yeah.
So whether it's tomorrow or half a year or a year down the road, does it really matter?
No, but I
don't know if the front yard of the State House, or it was State House, right? The State House with a bunch of, with Antifa with you is the best way to do that.
Well, you're probably not going to have the best option, whatever it is. Yeah. Whenever they come for guns, that kind of thing, it's probably not going to be. There's not going to be like a best scenario.
I just don't like the unarmed corral of.
Right, and
victims.
That's what they got a little bit more of information here at GreenwichTime.com. They're interviewing Todd Gilbert, the House Minority Leader. A Republican from Shenandoah said in a written statement on Saturday, quote, "Any group that comes to Richmond to spread white supremacist garbage or any other form of hate, violence, or civil unrest isn't welcome here. While we and our Democratic colleagues may have differences, we're all Virginians and we'll stand united in opposition to any threats of violence or civil unrest from any quarter." Of course, they won't be united against threats of violence from the police because they support those threats of violence. Gilbert declined to discuss the content of the briefing, but his statement referred to efforts to, quote, infuse the event with a, quote, twisted or extreme worldview, unquote. Outside the Capitol, authorities used tall chain-link barriers to create a pie-shaped pen for the rally. The area takes up about a third of Capitol Square, a manicured park dotted with monuments to historical figures ranging from Native Americans and George Washington to a segregationist governor and civil rights leaders. The monuments were protected with additional fencing, as well as the executive mansion to the east. So they're protecting the governor.
I don't like that they're already like pre-scapegoating white supremacists as if that's the only group that would be willing
that would
to
cause
start
problems.
Yeah.
Well, and again, they already arrested 3 alleged white supremacists.
This is not a white supremacist rally. This is an anti-gun control rally.
Right, but they're saying that the only people that are willing to start violence is going to be the white supremacist group, meaning that if violence does occur, they'll likely say that one of those is the agent provocateur that snuck through regardless of who actually started it.
The square is usually open on all sides to foot traffic. However, under Northam's emergency order, access is restricted to one spot. Just inside the entrance at 9th and East Gray Streets, the crowd will be split into 17 lines for screening with metal detectors.
There you go.
So, yes, you will be screened if you are attempting to get into this protest zone. Anyone attempting to bring in weapons will be turned away, but police will not confiscate the items. So that's good, I suppose. Glad they're not actually taking guns at the checkpoint. So if you have a gun, you'll just be told you can't come in.
Yeah.
Officials have said demonstrators who do not want to part with their guns may remain armed on the city streets. Authorities say they will cut off admission to the rally once the crowd hits a certain number, which they have declined to disclose. We go to Dana on the line in Grand Rapids, Michigan, listening to WTKG out there. Go ahead, Dana.
Hi, guys. Ian, I want to thank you. Before the last break, you brought up the 38% that voted in the last election. And that, I've been listening to these people, and I'm saying this because I'm calling from Michigan, and I support the rally, the gun ban rally, that all these people are going out there. But there wouldn't have had to been the rally or the protest had they gone out and voted. People think that voting doesn't count. I'm one of those people until Trump got elected. Not any school board or municipal, state, or local election ever made me believe my vote counted. Mm-hmm. But you know what they say? My mother always said this. If everybody felt that way, then the other side would always win. And it only takes one person, like a governor and a handful, just a few over in the, over the number in the state legislature, both the Senate state and the state reps, to do things like this. So for all the Virginians listening, because you have such a large group listening tonight to your show, I want them to know. I know you're tired after work. I am too. I know you got little ones, but people in Virginia understand what happened. Your state was blood red for years, and it got turned blue. It got turned blue because those socialists/communists, progressives, and the millennials, as well as some of the older ones, the Gen Xers, moved to Northern Virginia from Washington because they work for the bureaucracy in Washington. This is not me saying this. I'm not trying to be melodramatic here. You can check this out. They moved into Northern Virginia, which is adjacent to Washington, because although it's outrageously expensive, it's still cheaper than Washington. Mm-hmm. And I'll say one thing about those socialists and communists and those big government people is I don't care how many little kids they got tied to their apron strings. No matter what's going on, when there's an election, even if it's the school board, they get off their butts and vote. I want to tell you something about your last caller, Jim, that called in. Now, what do we do if we go out and vote and they steal an election? That's a problem. We need to address that, because I'm going to tell you something. I wasn't a Mitt Romney fan, but I sure as hell wasn't voting for Obama. In 2012, they did an entire county exit poll in Virginia. I think it was Harrison County, and one in Ohio. Both of those particular counties were red. In addition, when they did the exit poll, they did a whole day exit poll. It was almost entirely, it was overwhelmingly for Mitt Romney. And yet, when all was said and done, and this refers to the last caller before break about the stealing of election, it was completely, almost 100% for Obama. Now, tell me how that happened. But, Ian, you were right on the money. You cannot bitch and complain about the government you have. You get the government you deserve. People in Virginia.
I don't think I said that.
No, you didn't say that. You said the 38% people didn't turn out for 2018. And you're right, Ian, to bring that up because all these callers are talking about the rally. Yes, I support that. Get on your Instagram. Get on your Facebook. Spread the word to turn out. But there isn't a need for protest if you do the front end work. Just get out and vote.
I'm going to let the anarchists come out here for a minute and say that free people don't vote.
Well, hold on, Dana. You've been rambling there for a bit. Go ahead, Richie.
I'm going to let the inner anarchists come out for a minute because this is where I'm okay with the violence. Right? Free people don't vote for masters. Right? Free people declare themselves to be free and defend themselves against encroachment. If the government doesn't want to encroach on free people, then free people don't need to get violent. It's when they start the encroachment that you have to defend yourself some way, somehow.
Dana, thank you for the call tonight. I do appreciate hearing from you. Toll-free number is 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. Well, look, voting has not stopped the government from getting bigger. That's for damn. It's Free Talk Live. You can dial in toll-free here and bring up whatever you want. Our number is 855-450-FREE like freedom. That's 855-450-3733. If you are in Virginia, especially if you're in Richmond, and you're planning on attending the protest tomorrow, and you've got some, predictions and expectations as to what you expect is going to happen, we'd love to hear from you. With you tonight, it's Ian.
Richie Rich.
And Melanie.
Want to say thanks to Paul Ritter, who is a Free Talk Live Gold amplifier. Paul contributes $10 a month to the Free Talk Live AMP program, and really appreciate it because it helps us advertise, market, and promote Free Talk Live. That means that we can do radio advertising to reach out to program directors. You actually heard from one of them call in tonight, which is unusual when program directors call the show, but it has happened. It's not unheard of. Because, we're open phones. We'll talk to you about anything. And these guys have opinions, too, sometimes, which is cool. But, he knew who I was because I've called his office before and tried to get him to take the show.
3 Post-it notes worth of calls.
And, they're busy guys. They get to you if they can get to you. But, that's one of the things that we do. And also we go to the talk show conventions, of which there's really only one now. It used to be like a couple a year. Now there's only one. It's Talker's Media Seminar New Media Seminar in New York City, and we do go there on a once-a-year basis. So we're going there again this year, although I actually haven't gotten an answer from Mark as to whether or not he's going to go this year, because I don't know if he's going to be in Saipan or not in the Mariana Islands, and it's a bit of a hike to get out to New York City from Saipan as compared to just driving 4 hours from New Hampshire.
You're going to have to raffle off his ticket to one of the other multitude of co-hosts.
That won't be hard to do. I'm sure Aria or somebody else would love to take a trip to Manhattan. So either way, Free Talk Live will be there in some form or another, and it's because of Free Talk Live listeners like Paul Ritter and you, possibly. If you're going to join the AMP program, you can do that at amp.freetalklive.com. It's ampamp.freetalklive.com. Police say they are expecting rallygoers to start lining up tonight, even though it is expected to be freezing in Richmond, Virginia tonight. The authorities say they are setting up 2 medical tents in the area in case of injuries. The story from GreenwichTime.com. The hoopla is focused on promises by the governor to enact sweeping gun control this year, including limiting handgun purchases to 1 per month, banning military-style weapons and silencers, allowing localities to ban guns in public spaces, and enacting a red flag law so authorities can temporarily seize weapons from someone somebody thinks is a threat. These are all, unfreedom-oriented, unconstitutional, terrible ideas, and they deserve to be opposed. But our last caller was suggesting that voting would somehow solve these problems.
You should have voted harder, Virginia.
And I don't know. I mean, yeah, okay, maybe you could have kept this crop of Democrats out for this moment, but ultimately voting has not stopped the government from getting as oppressive and as intrusive as it currently is.
And it's not like the Republicans are better, right? They might be better on this
on
issue.
Guns, maybe,
on
yes.
Guns. Right. So if you had voted in a Republican governor and legislature, like, what would the issue be this time? What would the issue be instead of this Second Amendment issue?
I don't know. Maybe they ban abortion or something like that.
Could
or
be.
Force the Bible down kids' throats or
also
whatever.
a possibility.
These are all typical with Republicans, right? So yeah, I mean, they want you to be to do the things they want you to do and not do the things they don't want you to do, and so do the Democrats. And it's all the same. It's all just statism and authoritarianism being shoved down people's throats, and we're not there yet to end people's beliefs in this system, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And so I don't. While I'm with you that voting isn't ultimately going to change a whole lot about this, Richie, I'm also not opposed to people who try to vote.
Sure.
Because there are very few options that you do have besides violent revolution. And if it is possible to send a message, say by voting for the Libertarian candidate,
right,
or something like that, then I don't think there's anything wrong with that necessarily. Just don't expect it to really make a big difference.
It's stabilization care, if anything, in the cases that it is. It's not going to cure it. It's not going to get rid of the state, but it will stop something from getting worse in a lot of cases.
It could.
So here's a question that I posed to one of the other porcupines, liberty migrating people in Manchester where I live.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like I said, violence is always the answer. We do everything possible peaceful before we get to violence. At least that should be the goal in most human interactions where there's conflict.
I'd agree with you there. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I don't support violence. But ultimately, I'm not a pacifist. So
right.
If it does come down to somebody who I care about is being threatened, I wouldn't oppose using violence to stop it.
So those who vote, they look at that as like one more nonviolent means to achieve freedom, to achieve liberty. Let's go ahead. Let's get the laws passed. Let's vote for the right legislatures in. Like, my question to him was like, how many more election cycles do you need? Right? Before he said, like, we've exhausted this nonviolent method. We need to try something else. Right?
Well,
like,
what else?
I don't know. That's what I'm saying. That was my question.
Well, I support mass noncompliance.
Well, okay. That is kind of the opposite question to me, because the question isn't how many things can we do to put off resistance. The question is, do we have enough of people to effectively achieve resistance? And right now the answer is no.
Okay.
You don't even have enough people to effectively non-cooperate. Like, resistance is one thing. If you're talking about like violent resistance, that's a whole other set of, even less or even fewer people.
There's no real such thing as non-violent resistance. You're either resisting or you're not.
Well, no, there is absolutely non-violent resistance. It's called non-cooperation. It's where you don't do what you're told. It's where if they tell you
resistance, though. That's just kind of being there.
Well, I mean, if you aren't going along to get along, you are resisting in that way. So I'll give you an example. Lauren Canario, who you may have met at some point, she's one of the activists, the early movers up here. Do you know Lauren?
No.
Okay, so she was an early mover, like before even Free Talk Live moved here. She went to New London, Connecticut, where they were stealing people's homes back in 2005. You may recall the Kelo versus New London Supreme Court case, where the Supreme Court ruled that the government gang can steal people's property for private purposes. So no longer just for like, we want to build a park or, some other government thing.
Public benefit as opposed to public use.
Right, to use the money, we're going to get more tax dollars from this if we convert it to a private business park instead of this neighborhood, which is what it's been for generations, so they stole people's homes from them. She went down there and she engaged in non-cooperation and civil disobedience. She sat on the porch of one of these homes, that they wanted to steal from these people, and, bulldozer comes up or whatever, and she's there on the porch just reading a book. And they had to physically remove her from that porch because she was not going to go voluntarily on her own.
That's civil disobedience. It's not resisting. You're not resisting anything. When they went and picked her up, the way you're telling the story, she didn't resist that. She let them pick her up and move her off the porch.
But there's still resistance involved because they had to pick her up. Most people, when they get arrested, will just do what they're told, right? Put your hands behind your back, walk this way, get in the car. She made them do everything. Not only that, but when she was in the jail and they came to take her to court, she didn't even leave her jail cell. She forced them to go in there, bring a wheelchair to the cell, pick her up from inside the cell, put her in the wheelchair, take her out to the paddy wagon, lift her up, put her in the paddy wagon, then do the same thing at the court, wheel her into the courtroom. And so basically,
I'm not saying she should have. But okay,
right.
So fine. Okay, so then if I have to clarify,
it's not violent resistance. Okay, she's not pushing back. She's not straining against them. But at the same time, she's also not cooperating with them. So it's non-cooperation. If you had even a small percentage of people non-cooperating, refusing to pay tickets, refusing to obey, you could throw a major wrench into the works without ever having to lift a finger.
I won't resist, but I won't assist either.
That's right, yeah. Without ever having to lift a finger, you could do a whole lot to really clog the system with nonviolent cases and things like that. Phones are all of a sudden loaded up. We're going to get to your calls and thoughts here. 855-450 free, like freedom.
Do you want more businesses accepting Bitcoin Cash and Dash? Now with AnyPay, you earn passive income for every purchase at those businesses. Finally, a financial incentive to spread Bitcoin Cash and Dash. You made it happen, so you get the rewards. Download the AnyPay Cash Register app and add your cryptocurrency wallet addresses. Then install it at a real-life business and tell us what you did at anypayinc.com. anypayinc.com.
Yeah, it's Free Talk Live. You dial toll free to bring up what you want. Our number is 855-450 free like freedom. That's 855-450-3733. And we've got the Discord call-in lines as well. You can hop on to one of those if you'd like, discord.lrn.fm. In fact, we've got somebody waiting there, but also the phones are loaded up. So if you can't get through on our phone lines here tonight at 855-450 free. Don't worry, we're here every night. So if you didn't get in tonight, no worries. We're going to get you on tomorrow if you call tomorrow. Always better to call earlier rather than later, but I think we can get through almost everybody that's on our lines tonight. It's Ian, Richie, and Melanie in the studio here. Plus, Forkfest 2020 is on the way. If you feel like freedom is on the way out where you live, maybe you're in Virginia, and maybe your protest tomorrow doesn't stop the government from going and doing the things they want to do with taking guns and whatever else is going to come down the pike. Maybe you ought to consider regrouping. Maybe you ought to consider joining together with other people of like mind. If you love liberty, that is. If you want to tell other people how to live, stay away from Forkfest. But if you are
you're a single issue guy and guns is that issue, maybe stay away.
Yeah, but if you care about liberty, if you care about freedom, and guns and the right to self-defense is one aspect of that, then you really ought to check out Forkfest.party. It's going to be a gathering of liberty-minded folks, voluntarists, maybe anarchists, libertarians, hanging out in the beautiful White Mountains of New Hampshire, June 29th until July 5th. It's going to be the fourth year of Forkfest, and some people are saying it's going to be the flippening, where Forkfest becomes the larger of the two libertarian summer events.
Well, they did put it after Porkfest.
It is after for the first time.
They're positioning it a little bit differently.
Yep, and it's a full week now instead of like 5 days, so it's going to be a full week. The 29th of June through July 5th, which means it's also going to include for the first time Independence Day. So what a perfect excuse to come up, check out New Hampshire, spend Independence Day weekend and the several days before that with some people that actually care about freedom. You can relax, you can go camping and do that sort of thing, or you can actually create something for others to experience. Maybe you want to put on a show. Maybe you've got some talent. You can play music, or you like poker. You've got a poker table. You want to throw a few games or whatever. There's all kinds of options for you to create something for people to experience. It's up to you because there's nobody who's in charge here. It's decentralized. There's no ticket prices. There's no tickets. There's none of that. There's no bureaucracy. There's no board of directors. There's no organizers. It's just you and whoever else shows up. And in 2019, there was, I would say, maybe like 300 people there. And now I can't do anything but eyeball the campground. So I don't actually know how many people.
I told you, walk around with a clicker. Did you see
but they're constantly moving. And people are all going all over the place at all the time. So you just kind of have to get a feel for it. But come on up and check it out. Go to Forkfest.party, and we'll look forward to seeing you there because Free Talk Live will be broadcasting from the event. We go to your phone calls and thoughts. Rob is in Lynchburg, Virginia, listening to WLNI FM. Go ahead, Rob.
Hey, good evening.
Hey.
I just wanted to say that the folks in Virginia should pay attention, around the country, pay attention. Mike Bloomberg last Saturday was bragging about how he fought the gun control issue in Virginia, that he spent his money, $24 million, to get people elected for his agenda personally, and that he would spend, $1 billion or $2 billion to spread his socialism and communism around the country.
Why would he pick Virginia first?
I think it was just on the edge. The margin of victory was so slim, plus the mass shooting in Virginia Beach had just occurred, and it was a prime time to bring up the gun control issue.
Okay.
And so he stirred up the people in the metropolitan areas and got them to elect socialists and communists. I mean, even Fairfax County elected a Democratic socialist, and that's how he ran, as a Democratic socialist in Fairfax County. So people need to be aware. Plus, and I can tell you, my son is a police officer in the county around Richmond, and they have stood up the incident management team, and our governor is stirring up trouble.
Okay, so wait a minute. You said they've stood up to the incident. Hold on. You said they've stood up to the incident management team. What is that?
That means that they are preparing for trouble. They have the state incident management team, the people that coordinate police, fire, rescue, EMS, National Guard, and all those people have a command center set up for trouble. And, the governor, with him putting up the fence around the Capitol area, him banning guns, and then going out here and saying, well, these people are going to cause trouble. Well, the only ones causing trouble are the busloads of Antifa that are headed towards Richmond. If there's any trouble, it's not people with concealed carry permits. It's not NRA members that will cause trouble. It will be, the Antifa that will stir up the trouble.
It could be. It could also be the police.
Well, it could be.
Well,
and we've seen. I know your son's a cop and everything, but we've certainly seen plenty of evidence of cops stirring up trouble at protests, so they have an excuse to go and crack some heads. Now, what is it that your son? How does your son feel about this situation? I mean, is he going to go around and confiscate guns? Have you asked him about that?
No, they won't. He said, most of the, and I live in the Bedford County area. We are a Second Amendment sanctuary county.
Okay.
Our sheriff will not do that. And we have counties, 95%.
And does your son, I'm sorry to interrupt, does your son work for the sheriff or does he work for city police?
He works for sheriff.
Okay.
He works for sheriff. So.
And so what has he... Go ahead.
95% of the counties in Virginia and jurisdictions have voted to be Second Amendment sanctuary counties or cities. Even one of the largest cities, Virginia Beach, voted to be a Second Amendment sanctuary city. And the Attorney General says, well, there's no power in those resolutions. Well, when you have sheriffs that are saying we will deputize the citizens and make them, deputies so that you can't take their guns, I mean, think about it. If a sheriff's willing to deputize 1,000 people in his county, so that
it's an interesting approach.
I also found interesting when West Virginia offered to absorb those counties into West Virginia.
And they are serious.
Right? And
they are serious about doing that. I mean, they will annex any county that votes to come along.
What would it take to do that?
That would be hilarious.
Right?
Well, unfortunately, it would take the House and the Senate in Virginia
have to let them go
to authorize it, which they won't do now that they're Democrats. But it's scary. I tell you, I have said that before I give up my rifles, my long guns, I will send my wife out the door and I will die with them in my hand because I'm not giving up my gun.
Rob, thanks for calling tonight.
That's a tough call.
I really appreciate hearing from you. Thanks for sharing your thoughts with us tonight,
Thanks
man.
for your word, man.
Yes, sir. Let's go on to Dustin in Kansas, listening to KINA in Salina. Go ahead, Dustin.
Ian is a DJ name, right?
Ian is a DJ name? No, that's what I was given by birth.
Yeah, I admire the show. I think it's the best one on the radio for what I get.
Hey, thanks, man.
Yeah. It's
sound like a DJ scratching a record.
Stop. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Dustin.
It's completely unique, opening up the conversation.
Yes.
To the community. So thank you for your service.
Well, thank you for recognizing that. Was there anything else you wanted to say?
Yeah. I just wanted to add that I've called before and told you that I'm working for the Tea Party, as the Constitution isn't remembered for one paragraph from any judge in the land, and I'm still sacrificing to work for the Tea Party, and I think I've completed the once for the community. So
I'm amazed the Tea Party even exists. I haven't heard anything about the Tea Party for like most of the last decade.
I've still got my Liberty Dollar Tea Party flag somewhere.
Really?
Yeah.
It's a dedication. It's a dedication for we the people, and the conditions that there is no law at the of the difficulty to remember even one paragraph.
Yeah, I don't know what you're trying to say, Dustin, but I do want to say thank you for listening, and thank you for the compliment. I definitely appreciate hearing from you tonight. The toll-free number here, 855-450-FREE. I just can't dedicate any more time to it. I really can't. I really appreciate him calling in, though, man. It takes a lot to call a talk radio show, especially night condition. 855-450-FREE. This is Free Talk Live. It's Free Talk Live. Moments remain. Enough time for you. If you dial the phone number, which is 855-450-FREE, or you call us on our Discord server at discord.lrn.fm. If you want to sound great, and we like it when you sound great, you should be on our Discord server. I know it takes some extra steps. You do have to join the Discord server, and that's easy to do. That's a username and password set up. And this is like the hardest part, right? Like you got to create the account. Then you got to log into the server for the first time. You should probably install the app on whatever device you've got, maybe your tablet, your smartphone, or your laptop or desktop computer. You can actually have it on more than one device. So I've got it on my smartphone. It's also on my laptop. So pretty much I've got Discord with me wherever I go. And then you're in our server, and then once you're in, all you got to do is click on the on-air call-in line rooms, and there's 4 of them right there at the top of the server. You pick one, hop in that room, we'll see you there, and we'll join you in the room, and then you'll sound great.
Just about any other service requires a login and sign up anyway.
So that's pretty standard. Yeah. I mean, so for the first time of calling in, there's extra steps involved, but after that, it's just one button. You just press the call-in room, and you're in. So you put a little bit of time in up front, and then you sound great, and then it'll be easier for us to understand you, and that's a good thing. So discord.lrn.fm. But we go back to your phone calls and thoughts. It's been Virginia gun protest all night tonight here on Free Talk Live, but it is open phones, and you can bring up anything. That said, we're going back to John, who's in Virginia, listening to WNIS out in Norfolk. Go ahead, John.
Good evening. How are you guys doing tonight?
Good. Welcome, sir.
Great show. So I don't know. I haven't heard the whole show tonight. I'm driving around door dashing for extra money, and I've been listening on and off. But I have a little bit of an idea about how this is going to go down. And there's a lot of bills that were proposed as soon as the election was over. They had them filed almost immediately. And a lot of them have been scrapped for now. Really? So my idea is that, and I know this sounds kind of nefarious, but I think these legislators are hoping for the worst type of behavior so they can go ahead and put these bills that were scrapped, the most egregious ones, back on the table.
Yeah. Can you give us an example of one of them that's been scrapped?
Yeah, so I wish I had the bill numbers, but I don't remember them off the top of my head. But the one that really kind of sent everybody into the stratosphere was the gun ban. And so the ban was probably the strictest in the country, or the proposed ban.
Is that scrapped? Because I thought that's like the crux of what's going on here.
Right. There's a bill in the House that hasn't been discussed, but the bill from the Senate was taken off the table. And so basically the bill would ban basically 75 to 80% of everything that's sold in Virginia, what everybody has. So anything with a magazine over 10 rounds.
Hold on, just to clarify, it would ban guns that are already in possession of people, or ban the future sales of those guns?
So the original language of the law, as far as I can understand it, was that there would be no grandfather clause, that overnight when the bill was passed, or if the bill were to be passed overnight, pretty much, millions of Virginians would be, felons.
Why do you think they scrapped it? Are they scared now?
I think it's because of the reaction. I mean, this it's unprecedented. I live in Virginia Beach, and I went to the Second Amendment rally there for at the city council, and it was packed. I was inside the actual room, and there were at least, I think, 1,000 people outside chanting. And I think that's gotten their attention. So I think they've scrapped a lot of these bills, but they're never going away permanently. They're
come
waiting
back
in the wings. Absolutely. So if tomorrow goes down and it's really bad, then that gun ban is going to come back. I've talked to local gun store owners, and they have no idea. What are they going to do with their stock? They've spent all this money on all these, firearms. They also had a lot of really strange bills in there that have been kind of like put under the rug for right now. They had bills that would you couldn't operate a shooting range unless it was a government shooting range, which is really bizarre. You couldn't participate in martial arts classes if you were part of a militia group, or how they define militia group. Yeah,
I heard a little bit about that.
Man.
I thought that was a little bit overblown in with the media coverage. Like it wasn't exactly what they were describing.
So you're saying these are the ones that are scrapped, but there's still plenty of bad ones that are on the deck, right?
Yeah, so the ones that are going with are what they would call, and it's funny how, whenever somebody wants to pass a law, they get to define what common sense means, Common sense laws. Well, who says common sense? Well,
common sense gun control.
Right, common sense. Yeah, as if you oppose it, then you have no common sense, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's how it's very clever how they frame it. But the ones that they're going to probably pass immediately are the red flag laws, and you can't buy more than one gun a month, I believe, which is really silly. I mean, how many handguns can you use at one time?
Right.
And right. So and then they're
I've seen Boondock
Saints.
Saints. We'll go with 6.
Right. And then they're gonna pass the one where you can't. There's even if you want to sell a gun to a family member, you're gonna have to have a background check.
Oh, jeez.
Silly. None of this stuff works. We know it statistically. We know it. But the more egregious stuff, the stuff that really pisses people off, I think they're going to table those for now. And then the first instance of any kind of mass shooting that happens next, because there probably will be another one at some point.
Like the Patriot Act just sitting on the side ready to go.
Oh, yeah, it's not like we fight this and then we win and it's done.
Right, they keep bringing them back.
Until we get rid of the state, we're going to have to keep fighting the same fight.
Yeah, that's true.
It's never going to end. It's going to be a constant battle for, I don't know, for the rest of my life anyway, and
John, I appreciate the call, man. Thanks for sharing with us tonight. Definitely appreciate that. Let's go to Tim. He's also in Virginia Beach, listening to WNIS. Go ahead, Tim.
Hey, guys. How are you tonight?
Hey, Tim. What's on your mind?
All right. Listen, I wanted to run that red flag law by you guys one time.
Sure.
Now,
it's crap. I'm already going to tell you that. Go ahead.
Well, man, I love that guy that you were just talking to. Man, I agree with him 100%. I know I was turned away from a shooting range here, not in Virginia Beach, but close.
Why did they turn you away?
Well, they said I'm not allowed to shoot the rifle there anymore. Only handguns and bows.
Why?
Yes.
Well, is that range policy, though? I mean, because if that's range policy, then...
Yeah, but why?
Well, it never was before because I've shot the rifle there many times.
Okay.
So it was something new. No, not even a vague reason as to why. Just a wink and a nod, and you know what's going on. So I guess...
But apparently you don't know what's going on.
Well, so are you concerned that the red flag law, someone will turn you in and they'll come for the rest of your firearms?
Well, no. My question was, what if you know someone who happens to have a lot of firearms who you think is a threat?
Well, now, wait a minute. Did this person actually threaten you, or do you just think that they're potentially dangerous?
No. But there's...
Befriend them and trade with them voluntarily.
Go ahead.
Drug usage involved.
Well, I mean, just because somebody's getting high doesn't mean that they're a threat necessarily.
Well, they're pretty violent.
They're violent,
and
okay.
they like guns.
Okay, what have they done? I mean, have they actually harmed you? Have they threatened you directly? Have they...
No.
So what I don't want to do with that person is give them the ability to call the cops and be like, hey, my potential victim, you should go take all their guns from me first before I go attack them.
That's what I mean. That's where I'm torn. Like, what do you do in my position?
You leave the person alone. I mean, if somebody's minding their own business, but they look dangerous and they're not threatening you, then they're not a threat. I mean, I don't understand maybe there's something I'm missing here.
Work on your draw just in case he comes after you. You can fire quicker.
There's a lot of road rage.
Road rage,
There's
okay.
a pistol underneath the seat.
Yeah. Not a good way to store a gun, by the way.
Right on. He likes to wave it around.
Yep.
Okay, no, wait, are you hold on. Now, wait.
Okay, so brandishing is a form of threatening, and that's already illegal.
Yeah, but wait. Are you talking about a theoretical guy, or are you talking about a real guy that you know who literally goes and waves a gun around?
A person.
Sounds like he knows a guy. Looking for advice.
Yeah.
Okay. You know a guy who's gotten into road rage incidents, has pulled a gun, and menaced other people with it.
Not pulled a gun. Not waved it at people.
Okay, I'm sorry. I thought you did say he was waving it at people. So you think he has the potential?
Waving it, yes. Waving it around.
Wait till he does, and then draw quicker.
There you go. Thanks for the call tonight. I appreciate it, Tim. But don't call the cops. It just makes things worse. It really does. I like your advice there, Richie. And you can check more of Richie out on his show, which is The Anarchist Experience.
AnarchistExperience.com.
You can find him there. He's got a fresh show up every single week on his podcast feed. And we will continue tomorrow night. Hopefully nobody will get hurt tomorrow in Virginia, but we will see, and we'll let you know. On Free Talk Live, we're bringing people to the ideas of liberty every day. From wrestling superstars like Glenn Jacobs.
You guys really are having an impact, I believe. Like I said, a lot of where I am now is due to listening to Free Talk Live. You changed my mind on some very important issues years ago.
To random people tuning in on the radio.
I was kind of stuck in the left-right paradigm. I heard your show by chance on a Saturday night. From there, I went on, joined the Free State Project, and become an amplifier. So, I mean, that's really the reason why I amp is because I know that if it wasn't for you guys being on as many stations as you are, I never would have found the ideas of liberty.
Your amp will directly change more lives by getting Free Talk Live in front of people looking for talk radio online and on the air. You can help by joining the AMP program for just $5 a month at amp.freetalklive.com and getting perks. That's amp.freetalklive.com.